Breaking news just hit. And it's bad for the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. The Pizza Express alibi? It's falling apart. A royal protection officer says Andrew was actually at Buckingham Palace that night. And here's the kicker. Security experts are now saying Buckingham Palace should be treated like a crime scene. Because if Andrew's story is true, there should be security logs, entry records, sign-in sheets. But if those records don't exist, or worse, if they contradict what he's been saying for 5 years, then we're not just talking about lies. We're talking about a cover-up at the highest levels of the British monarchy. Let's start with what dropped just days ago. February 4th, 2026. The U.S. Department of Justice releases another batch of documents from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Buried in those documents is an email, written by Ghislaine Maxwell, sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2015. And it changes everything. For years, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, we're not calling him Prince anymore because King Charles stripped that title, has claimed that the infamous photo with Virginia Giuffre might be fake, that it could have been doctored, that he doesn't even remember meeting her. Here's what Maxwell wrote in that email, and I'm reading directly from the official document. In 2001, I was in London when redacted, met a number of friends of mine, including Prince Andrew. A photograph was taken as I imagined she wanted to show it to friends and family. The name is redacted, but the email references Virginia's mother, not redacted. It mentions Mar-a-Lago, where Maxwell recruited Giuffre. It matches every detail of Virginia's story. Maxwell goes on. Prince Andrew came to my house to visit me. Redacted, was in the house, and they did meet. This is from Ghislaine Maxwell herself, the woman who's serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. The woman who, by the way, publicly claimed in 2023 that the photo was fake and she didn't believe it's real for a second. Turns out she was lying. Her own email from 2015 proves she was lying. And Andrew? His entire defense just crumbled. Because if the photo is real, and Maxwell's own words confirm it is, then Andrew did meet Virginia Giuffre. He did put his arm around her waist. The photo was taken at Maxwell's London townhouse on March 10, 2001. March 10, 2001. Virginia Giuffre, age 17, claimed she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew at Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse in London. There's a photo of them together that night. Fast forward to November 2019. Andrew sits down with BBC's Emily Maitlis for that catastrophic Newsnight interview. And when asked about that specific night, here's what he said. I was at home. I was with the children, and I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at, I suppose, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then because the Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one is away, the other one is there. Pizza Express. In Woking. He remembered this so vividly, he told Maitlis, because taking his daughter to a pizza chain was a very unusual thing for me to do. Now here's what makes this story fascinating, and I mean this in the worst possible way. Andrew didn't give this alibi during the actual interview. The cameras had stopped. Maitlis has since revealed that Andrew asked to start the cameras again because he'd forgotten to mention his alibi. He insisted they include it. He thought it would exonerate him. He was convinced this Pizza Express story was his get-out-of, jail-free card. The BBC production team actually debated whether to include it because, in Maitlis's words, if we don't include it, we haven't included something really important for the interviewee to make known. And if we do include it, it sounds ridiculous. They included it. The world laughed. Pizza Express in Woking became a punchline. But here's what's not funny. That alibi is now falling apart. And the evidence trail leads straight back to Buckingham Palace. February 2020. A former royal protection officer comes forward. He'd served 23 years with the Metropolitan Police. Exemplary record. He worked the gates at Buckingham Palace. And he remembers something about the early morning hours of March 11, 2001. According to this officer, Prince Andrew left Buckingham Palace earlier in the evening of March 10, driving what the officer believes was a green Jaguar. Then, in the early hours of March 11th, so technically overnight, after the alleged assault, Andrew returned to Buckingham Palace. The officer says Andrew arrived by car at the front gate and hurled abuse at palace guards when they did not open the gates quickly enough. The officer recalls Andrew being furious, insisting that Buckingham Palace was his house and demanding immediate entry. Now, let's think about what Andrew told Emily Maitlis. He said he was at home all evening after Pizza Express. When Maitlis asked if he was absolutely sure he'd been at home, he said yeah. But what if home meant Buckingham Palace, not his private residence? What if Andrew was deliberately vague about which home he meant? The officer told the Mail on Sunday. After seeing the BBC interview, it dawned on me that the abusive incident I experienced could cast doubt on Prince Andrew's alibi if it were the same night. He wanted access to his duty roster to be 100% certain. He said, "I believe I have a right to know my own shift patterns." But here's the thing, those records exist. The Metropolitan Police keep meticulous logs. Every person who enters or exits Buckingham Palace is recorded. Times are logged. Vehicles are noted. If Andrew was at Buckingham Palace that night, either departing or returning, there's a paper trail. And that's why security experts are now saying something remarkable. Buckingham Palace should be treated as a potential crime scene. Buckingham Palace isn't some random building. It's one of the most heavily secured properties in the United Kingdom. It's protected by the Royal and Specialist Protection Command, armed police officers, highly trained, operating under strict protocols. Every single person who enters those gates is logged. Security checks, ID verification, entry times, exit times, who they're visiting, where they're going. According to former protection officer Paul Page, who later spoke in an ITV documentary, Ghislaine Maxwell had such free access to the palace that security officers internally speculated she and Andrew were in an intimate relationship. Maxwell would just show up, unannounced. Her name wouldn't be in the security book, and officers were told to let her in anyway. Now we have a second woman, represented by attorney Bradley Edwards, who alleges she was sent by Epstein to the UK for a sexual encounter with Andrew at Royal Lodge in 2010. Her lawyer says she exchanged emails with Andrew before spending the night with him. Then, the next morning, she got a tour of Buckingham Palace. Edwards told the BBC, "We're talking about at least one woman who was sent by Jeffrey Epstein over to Prince Andrew. And she even had, after a night with Prince Andrew, a tour of Buckingham Palace." Think about the implications. If this woman's allegations are true, there would be security records of her entering Buckingham Palace. Metropolitan Police officers would have signed her in. There would be logs showing who she was with, where she went, how long she stayed. This is why campaigners are now calling for Buckingham Palace to be investigated as if it were a crime scene. Because in any other situation, literally any other situation, if there were allegations of sexual assault connected to a specific location, police would. But this isn't happening. Why? Because the location is Buckingham Palace. Because the person at the center is the king's brother. Because the witnesses are armed police officers who guard the royal family. The anti-monarchy group Republic has formally reported the new allegation to London's Metropolitan Police. They're arguing that police are running out of excuses not to investigate. Metropolitan Police duty rosters. Officers work in shifts. Those schedules are documented. The officer who remembers Andrew arriving at Buckingham Palace wants access to his own roster to confirm the date. Buckingham Palace is covered by security cameras. Although footage from 2001 is almost certainly deleted by now, footage from 2010 might still exist. The second woman's lawyer says she exchanged emails with Andrew before visiting. Email servers keep logs. Those communications should be retrievable. Royal properties maintain records of official visitors. If someone toured Buckingham Palace, there should be documentation. Officers are required to file incident reports for anything unusual, including a royal family member hurling abuse at guards in the middle of the night. All of this evidence exists somewhere. Or it should exist. Or it should have existed before being mysteriously lost or destroyed. And here's the problem. Andrew has never been required to produce any of it. When Virginia Giuffre sued him in U.S. court, he settled for approximately $15 million. No admission of liability. No testimony. No evidence submitted. The case just went away. The Metropolitan Police reviewed Giuffre's allegations multiple times starting in 2015. Each time, they determined there were no grounds to pursue a full investigation. Because here's what's different now. King Charles has cut Andrew loose. Completely. In October 2025, Charles stripped him of all his titles. Duke of York, gone. Earl of Inverness, gone. His Royal Highness, gone. Andrew was kicked out of Royal Lodge, the 30-room mansion he'd lived in for years. He's now on a property on the king's private Sandringham estate, essentially in exile. The royal family has made it crystal clear, Andrew is on his own. You might be thinking, This all happened 25 years ago. Why does it matter now? It matters because justice delayed is justice denied. It matters because Virginia Giuffre is dead. She took her own life in April 2025 at age 41 without ever seeing Andrew held fully accountable. It matters because there's now a second woman with allegations, and she deserves to be heard. But most importantly, it matters because of what this case reveals about power and accountability. For years, Andrew's status protected him. His royal title, his connection to the throne, his mother's love, because Queen Elizabeth clearly had a blind spot when it came to her favorite son. Police didn't investigate thoroughly because he was royalty. The media treated him gently because he was royalty. Even after the Newsnight disaster, even after the settlement, he kept his mansion and his security detail and his titles for years. It took Virginia's death and her posthumous memoir to create enough public pressure for the royal family to finally act. Even then, it took months. The U.S. House Oversight Committee has formally requested that Andrew testify about Epstein and the co-conspirators and enablers in that network. He missed the November deadline. No consequences. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said he's certainly open to Andrew testifying before Congress. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said anybody who has relevant information should provide it to investigators. But Andrew remains silent. Protected by British law. Protected by distance. Protected by the very institution he's brought into disrepute. The Metropolitan Police could actually investigate. They could subpoena those security logs, interview those protection officers, build a timeline based on evidence rather than privilege. The second woman could file a civil lawsuit. That would force discovery, meaning Andrew's team would have to turn over documents, emails, records. It would be Giuffre's case all over again. Except this time Andrew can't buy his way out without looking even more guilty. Congress could pressure the UK government to make Andrew testify. It's happened before with other international figures. The diplomatic fallout would be massive, but the Biden administration, the Trump administration now, has shown they're willing to release those Epstein files regardless of who it embarrasses. And this is what the palace is desperately hoping, the story fades away. Andrew stays in Norfolk exile. The media moves on. History is written by the winners, and Andrew becomes a footnote about a disgraced royal who fell from grace. But I'll tell you what I think. I think this is just getting started. Every time new Epstein documents drop, Andrew's name appears prominently. 173 times in the most recent release, more than any other British figure. Every time survivors speak out, more pieces of the puzzle emerge. Every time we think we know the full story, another email surfaces. Another photo. Another witness. Look, this isn't about hating the royal family. This isn't about Republican politics or abolishing the monarchy. This is about one simple principle. Nobody should be above the law. Not because of their birth. Not because of their title. Not because of who their mother was or who their brother is. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had every privilege in life. He was born in Buckingham Palace. He flew helicopters in the Falklands War. He married in a fairy tale wedding. He lived in a mansion. He traveled on private jets. And when he was accused of sexually assaulting a teenage trafficking victim, he had the best lawyers money could buy. He had the palace PR machine. He had the Queen's protection. Virginia Giuffre had none of that. She was trafficked as a child. She fought for years to be believed. She faced death threats and smear campaigns and character assassination.